This is Masechet Pesachim Daf Kuf Yud Daled Amud Aleph, and the Mishnah begins to describe the order of the Seder, and beginning with Kadesh. Masnisen Mazgulo Kos Rishon. They pour or mix the first cup of wine. Beis Shammai Omrim Mevarech al Hayom v'Achar Kach Mevarech al Hayayin. Beis Shammai say that we first make the bracha of Kiddush Hayom, the Kiddush, sanctifying the day of Pesach, and then the bracha on the wine of Bar Pir Gafen. Ubeis Hillel Omer Mevarech al Hayayin v'Achar Kach Mevarech al Hayom. And Beis Hillel say that we make first the bracha on the wine, Bar Pir Gafen, and then Kiddush Hayom. This the Kiddush of Yom Tov is essentially two parts. The core of Kiddush. One is the Bar Pir Gafen, and one is what we call Kiddush Hayom, Asher Bachar Banu Mikol Am, V'Romanu Mikol Hashon Kiddushan Mitzasav, and it's Mekadesh the day, Baruch Atah Hashem Mekadesh Yisrael V'Hazmanim. So it's called Kiddush Hayom. So here, of course, I'm stealing the ending, but of course we follow Beit Hillel, but the Bar Pir Gafen is first, followed by Kedushas Hayom. Now, this machlokas is really not specific to Pesach itself, and relates to all the holidays, or even Shabbos. And the Gemara sort of brings that up by quoting a brisa to begin. Tana Rabbanan, we learned in a brisa, Devarim shebein Beis Shammai Beis Hillel b'Seuda. There are a number of issues that Beis Hillel and Beis Shammai debate in respect to the halachos of a meal of Seuda. Beis Shammai omrim Mevarech al Hayom v'Achar Kach Mevarech al Hayayin. Beis Shammai say the bracha of Kiddush Hayom comes first, and then Bar Pir Gafen. And this is the same as our Mishnah, but here the brisa is quoted because it adds an explanation to why. Because Shehayom Gorem L'Yayin Sheyavo, that the day causes the wine to come. In other words, we wouldn't have wine now if not for the fact that today was Yom Tov, and there's a mitzvah to say Kiddush al Yayin. So therefore the day should come first. Ukvar Kiddush Hayom v'Adayin Yayin lo ba. And secondly, Beit Shammai add that the Kiddush Hayom occurs chronologically before the wine, because the day became sanctified immediately after nightfall, and the wine wasn't on the table till now. Ubeis Hillel Omrim, and Beis Hillel say Mevarech al Yayin v'Achar Kach Mevarech al Hayom. Beis Hillel say we make the bracha on the wine and then the bracha on the day. Mipnei shehayayin goreim lekiddush sheteyamer, because we need the wine in order to say Kiddush. In other words, if you don't have wine or bread as a substitute for wine, but if you don't have them, there is no Kiddush. Kiddush is dependent on wine, and therefore the wine comes first. Davar acher, another reason, birchas hayayin tadira ubirchas hayom eina tadira. The bracha of Bar Pir Gafen is frequent; it can be said every single day, and the bracha of Kedushas Hayom is not tadir. It only occurs when the Yom Tov comes. Tadir v'she'eno tadir kodem. Whenever there's a choice in sequence between a frequent mitzvah or an infrequent mitzvah, then we first do the frequent one, the tadir. V'hilchota, and we conclude kedivrei Beit Hillel, that we paskin like Beit Hillel. My davar acher. Why does Beit Hillel have a second reason introduced with the words davar acher? V'chi tema hatam tarti v'hachachada. Why does Beit Hillel give a second reason? Because lest you will say that Beit Hillel has only one reason, and Beit Shammai has two, and therefore Beit Shammai has a stronger argument. Hachanami tarti davar acher. I have another one also. Tadir v'sheino tadir kodem. V'halacha kedivrei Beit Hillel, and therefore we paskin like Beit Hillel. Pshita. The Gemara asks, why do we need to say that we follow Beit Hillel? The Hanafik Batko, the Gemara in Eruvin tells us that a heavenly voice proclaimed one day that we follow Beit Hillel. The halacha follows Beit Hillel, and we always follow Beit Hillel, so why do we need to say in this particular case that we paskin like Beit Hillel? So the Gemara gives two possibilities introduced with the words Iba and Ema. If you want, I can answer Kodam Baskol. Maybe this discussion about Su'uda occurred before that Baskol. So we didn't know yet that Beit Hillel is always followed, and therefore we're saying that here in particular we follow Beit Hillel. V'iba is Ema. Alternatively, I can tell you, La'achar Baskol, it's after the Baskol. V'Rebbe Yoshua hi da'amar Ema shkichim bebaskol. And the Baskol was necessary according to the Tana Rabbi Yoshua, who paskins that we don't follow the Baskol lehalacha. Rabbi Yoshua is a character in a debate, a discussion in the Gemara elsewhere, where they have a debate about the laws of Tumah in respect to a particular oven. And they had a machlokes, and the Baskol came and paskined like one of the opinions. And Rabbi Yoshua says in that Gemara that Baskol is irrelevant, we don't follow it. We actually paskin against the Baskol because we don't follow Baskols, because the Torah was given to mankind on this world. Lo b'shamayim, it's no longer in the heavens. We can't look to heaven to find out what the halacha should be. And therefore, Rabbi Yoshua says, we don't follow the Baskol. So even though there was a Baskol, that was only accepted by some Tanoim, but others don't. And for those who don't follow the Baskol, we need to determine, in each case of Beis Hillel versus Beis Shammai, whether we should follow Beis Hillel or follow Beis Shammai. Let's look at Tosfos about the issue of the Baskol. The Tosfos is Dibra Maschil da'amar ein mashkichim bevaskol. V'im Tomar, Tosfos asks, Ma'ishna de kaimalon kebaskol de Beis Hillel v'lo kaimalon kebaskol de Rebbe Eliezer. Tosfos starts with a question: why is it that in the case of Hillel and Shammai, where there was a Baskol, even though our Gemara doesn't necessarily accept the Baskol, we universally paskin like Beis Hillel because of the Baskol. So we followed the Baskol in respect to deciding whether we should follow Beit Hillel or Beit Shammai. But in respect to Rebbe Eliezer, who was in the story of Rabbi Yeshua, who was the one who was the minority view in the Gemara about the oven, and the Baskol actually came to support Rebbe Eliezer, and Rabbi Yeshua responded that we don't follow the Baskol because lo b'shamayim. And in that case, the Gemara concludes that we follow Chachamim and disregard Rebbe Eliezer and disregard the Baskol. So why is it that we follow the Baskol of Beis Hillel, but we don't follow the Baskol of Rebbe Eliezer? V'yesh lomar means Tosfot answers. And Tosfot answers, Dahacha Beit Hillel hava ruba. That Beis Hillel was actually the majority. Most people followed Beis Hillel. But Beis Shammai was a little sharper than Beis Hillel. Aval Hasam de Baskol haya keneged rabim lo kaimal hachi. That in the case of Rebbe Eliezer, Rabbi Yoshua, the Baskol was saying that Rebbe Eliezer is correct and all the Chachamim were incorrect. So since the Baskol was supporting the minority against the majority, and the principle of halacha is to always follow the majority, so we don't follow the Baskol when it contradicts the principles of halacha. But in the case of Beis Hillel, the Baskol really supports the principle of halacha, of following the majority. But you might have mistakenly thought that we follow Beit Shammai because they're sharper. So the Baskol says, no, follow the regular halacha. So we're not really following the Baskol, we're following the principles of halacha. And we follow Baskols which are consistent with our halacha. But we don't follow a Baskol when it tells you to follow a minority view, which we normally do not do. And why was there a Baskol? In that case, it was coming to trick us. Ubaskol lo yatzatza el l'chvodo. The Gemara explains that the only reason why the Baskol came to support Rebbe Eliezer was to give him honor, to personal tribute and respect, but not because we actually paskin like it. Amrina hasam min hashamayim yochichu. In the Gemara it says that Rebbe Eliezer, asked the heavens to support him, and the heavens therefore responded out of tremendous respect for Rebbe Eliezer. but not because God really wants to communicate to us that we follow Rabbi Eliezer. V'im Tomar. So Tosfot asks, Im Kain, Heichi Ka'amar Rabbi Yoshua hi. Based on this analysis, how can our Gemara in Pesachim say that the Baskol was given based on Rabbi Yeshua? How Rabbi Yeshua called a Baskol to Rabbi Eliezer? Rabbi Yeshua, who said we don't follow Baskol, was specifically about the Baskol of Rabbi Eliezer, where it's contradicting the majority. But in a case when the Baskol supports the majority, we follow the Baskol. So why do we ever need a Baskol in the case of? So why would we need the Gemara and Pesachim to paskin like Beis Hillel? Everyone agrees we follow the Baskol. Even Rabbi Yeshua would. In other words, Tosfos established that we follow Rabbi Yeshua, that we don't follow Baskols in the case of Rabbi Eliezer, because it contradicts the majority. But we do follow the Baskol when it supports the majority, like Beis Hillel. So therefore, everyone should agree we follow the Baskol. Nevertheless, our Gemara in Pesachim suggests that we don't know the halacha about this machlokas Beis Hillel Beis Shammai, because maybe Rabbi Yeshua does not follow the Baskol, but he would follow this Baskol. V'yesh lomar, Tosfot answers, Midika Amar Ein Mashkicha Bevaskol, that since Rabbi Yeshua's language was Ein Mashkicha Bevaskol, he doesn't care about Baskols. Mishum lo b'shamayim hi mashma de b'chol duchta le lan lemezel basar Baskol. That Rabbi Yeshua's language indicates that he personally doesn't care about Baskols at all, ever. He says we don't care about Ein Mashkicha, we don't care about it, means ever. And that's his personal opinion. But the halacha, Tosfot says, is that we do care about Baskols sometimes, just not always. We would care about the Baskol in the case of Hillel and Shammai, and only Rabbi Yeshua would not. And therefore, the Gemara, which needs to paskin like Beis Hillel, Hilchas like Beis Hillel, is doing so for Rabbi Yeshua, but only for Rabbi Yehoshua.